For a nation that is a world leader in the business of cow's milk, it made sense that sheep's milk could also be a lucrative industry. Or at least it did to entrepreneur Scotty Chapman, who founded Spring Sheep despite the doubters who were out in force.
In the first 6 months we got laughed at a lot, and that made me realise we're on the right track.
The same thing happened in 2006 when Scotty bought Redwood Cellars, which produces Old Moot cider. 6 years later, it was bought by DB Breweries.
I once bought a rundown fruit winery, and when we turned it into making cider, I got told Kiwis won't drink cider, that'll never work. Well, we had a happy ending on that one.
In 2015, Mr Chapman's SLC Group, run with business partner Nick Hammond, set up a 50-50 joint venture with state-owned enterprise Landcorp, which trades as Pāmu. The venture was to milk sheep and export the value-added products. Pāmu Chief Executive Steve Carden had earlier sparked the idea when he mentioned cow milk was peaking and he wanted to investigate sheep. Mr Chapman, who grew up on a farm, had spent much of his working life as a marketer in Asia for the likes of Zespri and Heinz Watties. He loved the idea and took 6 months to research everything he could about sheep.
We spent about a week on meat and wool and thought, oh, this is too hard. And so spent the next few months looking at all the other value chains for sheep. So we looked at pharmaceutical products, nutraceutical, blood, collagen, lanolin, milk, pet food. And the milk became really interesting. Everything else we had a reason to knock off. It wasn't right for Landcorp to do.
He saw the global sheep milk industry was worth $8 billion at Farmgate, about $30 billion at retail, and many European countries have sheep cheese industries. But in New Zealand, it had never got past the cottage industry stage.
Why aren't we milking sheep? Have we missed a trick here? At that point, we scratched our heads again and went, is this a black hole? You know, when something hasn't been done, it's for two reasons. Either one, there's a really good reason and it just sinks money, or two, no one's done it yet for whatever reason.
After a lot of research, Mr Chapman decided there was an opportunity, but he had to go big.
The bottom line is, New Zealand's a long way from its customer base. You have to dry milk to get it away in any volume. So we had to get sheep milk of a scale whereby it was large enough to dry and export. So we had to create markets and products at the same time as supply and find a way to dry it, etc. So we had to go quite big.
The company markets its products on 3 levels. The environmental benefits, with sheep causing 30 to 50% less environmental damage than dairy. The nutritional benefits of sheep milk said to be more readily digestible by humans than cow milk. And the social benefits by creating new jobs in a new industry. The joint venture to export sheep milk products is working well, despite some scepticism at first.
I mean, a lot of people said be very scared. You've got an eccentric entrepreneur on one side and an old school SOE on the other. But actually, we've pulled out the best of both worlds. So we have the stability and the authenticity of Landcorp behind us, who are genuinely a good farmer and want to change land use to make New Zealand a better place for the world. And you have an entrepreneur that has the ability to make change and is prepared to take risk. And you put those two together with a very, very strong functional board and then fantastic people all around, because we've managed to attract really good talent. And it's a really, really good partnership.
Spring Sheep has a specific consumer in mind, an Asian mother with kids from newborns to 10-year-olds. It started with a whole milk powder foray into Taiwan and followed that 6 months later with a probiotic powder. It's since gone into sheep milk chews, and in November, Spring Sheep had its first run of infant formula, destined initially for Malaysia. It also earlier signed a memorandum of understanding with Korean food company Lotte Foods to launch into Korea. Spring Sheep made about $3 million of sales in 2018, which is expected to grow to $5 million in 2019. Mr Chapman says the company, which has 3 farms for now, should be doubling sales very easily each year.
Everything says we're on track to do that.
By 2030, it expects to be a $200 to $700 million business with 60 to 80 farms.
It's going to take us 10 years to get the right products. Let's not just think you plug and play, especially because we're going for high value nutrition.
Mr Chapman says there are teething issues, but they're not insurmountable.
Our biggest issue in the first 3 years has been market access. We underestimated getting milk across borders. I'm sure people that are from the industry will go, well, you should have seen that, but it's really tightened up over the last few years.
There's also not a lot of data available on sheep milk, but Ag Research is running a clinical trial to test the benefits of sheep milk for human digestion. It's believed to be a world first, with results due in 2019. The business has a lot of opportunities ahead, and Mr. Chapman says Spring Sheep is running at it.
We don't have the luxury of a cash cow, excuse the pun. We have to make this work, and going slowly isn't an option. We will work out of necessity.